Today we're going to go from this to this with the Richard454 electric headlight conversion kit. Alright, so let's do an unboxing. So you can see that the box is open, but I promise I didn't really look into this. I actually mistook this package for something else. When I opened it, I saw this little cardboard insert, and then I saw, oh look, Richard's Vet products. So cool, and then I left it at that. So let's just kind of take a look at it. So okay, there's a cool thank you card that's in here, and we got installation instructions for the headlights here on the left. So I'm going to scan that, and well, we'll take a look at his instructions. So that's cool. Let's take a look inside the box here. So yeah, all right, a whole bunch of fun bagged components, a couple of mounting brackets. Okay, look like this is for headlight adjustments. A couple of like Heims joints things going on in there. So okay, cool. Relays and headlight harnesses. Okay, cool. Some nuts and bolts. All right, and oh, they give you some zip ties. What else do we have in here? We got a couple of these. I bet these are our headlight motors. There's a side here. All right. Yep, these are them. Cool. Shiny. Shiny. Oh, look, you can see me. All right, cool. All right, so that is what's in the box. We'll get a look at the instructions and start working through this thing. Okay, so we are underneath the car. Here's the front end of it. All right, and here are the lights. Can I, oopsies. Cool. So the first thing we have to do, I believe, per the instructions, let me get that situated. There we go. We got to remove these bolts. So the actuator, which is all the way in the back, I'll add a little, here we go. The actuator, which is this guy in the back, this has got to come out. So there are 4 bolts. Here's 1, here's 2, here's 3, here's 4. So I'm going to go get these out, and then the actuator itself needs to come out, and it's attached to this clevis. Now this might be a pain because it is almost certainly seized on there, but we will cross that bridge when we get there. Let me go get these off. Okay, so I got all of the bolts out. I had to use a series of different extensions, and the manual or Richard's instructions include using a 1/2-inch socket, which I'm sure is the correct one because it's an American car, but I had to use something slightly larger. I can't tell if they were just the wrong bolts that were on there. They probably were. I can definitely tell that someone was in here before, but the bottom line is that I got them all off. And you can see it's a little wet in here because I had to use some penetrating fluid. But I got them all off, did the same thing on the other side. Now I got to remove the actuator itself. So to do that, I'm going to push up on the headlight here for a second. Okay, and you can see unfortunately my boot is ruined, but right, I'm not sure if you folks can see it. I'll put a little pointer on it, but the actuator threads into the clevis up top, and I have a feeling this is going to be a real pain. To be honest, it's supposed to unscrew, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that. It's probably corroded as all heck. So wish me luck. I'll probably use some vice grips to get this thing out, and hopefully we can just take the actuator out from there. All right, I'll be right back. Okay, so I got the actuator disconnected from the clevis over here, and so now I just got to push the actuator out. Now I think I'm having a bit of a challenge here because it seems to be like kind of corroded to the supporting arm over here. and I can't really get anything in there to give it a good whack. So I'm gonna try to figure that out. But this piece wasn't terrible. I just used a vice grip on the side here. I just gave it a good back and forth, righty tighty, lefty loosey, but kind of going back and forth, tighten, loosen, tighten, loosen, tighten, loosen, until I was finally able to get the threads free. And then just very slowly, using the vice grips, unscrew this thing. So that certainly is doable. Now I got to tackle this guy over here. Bear with me. I should also mention that there was a vacuum line hooked up to here. You can kind of see the remnant of it, and this is a piece of it. It's old, it's dry rotted, and it just kind of, the vacuum line itself just broke off. So if I want to get that off the actuator, I'll have to use a razor if I choose to rebuild them or not. But that's for a later date. Let's see if I can get this supporting arm disconnected here. Okay, so I got the first actuator out, and you can see on the top end of this there's a lot of corrosion, and this thing was basically corroded to where it mounts inside in here. I don't know if I can get a good shot at that. Let's see. There you go. So that's where it mounts up against. Okay. So one thing that Richard doesn't mention in his instructions are, what do you do in a case, like this? So if you have a similar situation, what I did was, here, I'm going to put this down. What I did was, you can see I still have the passenger one in, and I have a little bit of material here that I can kind of wedge in between. And so basically what I did is I got a pry bar, and I went in here and I just, worked on the sides of it and popped it out. If you are going to do that, please, please, please be careful. You don't want to mess up the fiberglass and the paint over here. So I would definitely recommend using something like a towel or something to protect it if you're going to go in through the top, like I did. All right, so I'm going to go and get this other actuator off. Same basic procedure. All right, so a little update here. I actually had to cut the end off of this actuator because it was so badly seized. So you can see where I'm pointing here, that is the cut end, and it was feeding into the clevis, which I have right over here, and I'll show you about a close-up of that. But yeah, these are old cars. Sometimes things are seized on pretty good, and because it's so tight in here, I basically made the decision that, this actuator is pretty much shot anyway. So I cut off the pin of the actuator to free up the clevis. So now I've got to remove the end that's in it out. I'm going to use it on my vise and probably use a blowtorch or something. And, well, we should have an easier time getting this actuator out. So this is that clevis that I was mentioning earlier, and unfortunately, I just could not get the threaded rod out of it, so I ended up replacing it after the fact, so not worth it, and honestly, they're pretty cheap. All right, another update. So I got the other actuator out, and this one was in even worse shape. I mean, look at this thing. Woo! She is hurting. So I'm glad I got this out. All right, I got the car outside. Now that the actuators are out, what I want to do is I want to start disconnecting the rest of the vacuum line system, and I'll put an illustration of what's included with the kit. Richard includes a diagram for all the different years, because the vacuum diagrams, depending on which year C3 that you have, are different. But on my C3, there's an actuator relay that you can see down in here, and it just mounts with this little screw there. and then we can see a number of lines coming off of it. So we see this kind of input line here and output line in the center, and these two T's coming off of it. So there's like a three-way valve down here, and this guy there, and then the vacuum lines. It's kind of mixed up with the wiring too, but you can see these are the vacuum lines that we had before. I put plugs in them for the time being because I wanted to run the car and pull it out. And then same thing, same thing right over here, the other vacuum lines from the actuators. All right, so I'm going to get this out, and then we'll work on the next step. Okay, so I got the actuator relay out, and it's not too bad. It's actually two screws. There's one on this side and one on this side for where it mounts up, but other than that, not too hard. And then we just disconnected the top line as well as the three-way valve down here. So, piece of cake. Let's move on. Alright, so we have the vacuum lines that were previously on it. We had this in the bottom, this in the center, this in the top. So these three, and then this one all the way on the top. So this is our three-way at the bottom of the actuator, and this was the going into the top of the actuator itself. Alright, so this little T junction, you can see it just runs down to that actuator here, or what was previously the actuator there, and the same thing over there. So I'm going to get this T out, and then this T out. And then this one that was kind of running in the center here, let's see if I can get my camera to focus. Come on, you. There we go. You can see that it's got three stripes on it. It's got a silver, then a yellow, then a silver again. And it runs all the way around here, back, up to, basically, you see this line here? This is it. It goes into a three-way, or a T-fitting. And then this is the, oh, come on camera, there we go. This is the vacuum tank. So, pretty cool, this vacuum tank here. Also helps to actuate the wiper door up there. We're not changing the wiper door. We're not converting that, at least not yet. We'll probably do that on another, I don't know, episode. But for the time being, we got this guy here. So I'm going to disconnect this for now, and I'll make a determination as to whether or not we should just run this here, or what should we do in terms of that. So, all right, let's disconnect this, and then we'll get those other lines out. All right, so with those out of the way, we just have this guy that remains. I'm pretty sure I know where this guy goes, so this runs all the way back here. I can see it. Yep, here it is. All right, let's pull this guy. All right, cool. And then this comes around here, comes up right into, ooh, right into this guy right there. Okay, so this, all right, okay, then this goes down to the headlight switch itself. All right, so I'm gonna take this, at least just pull it out of the way for now. Let's do that. Lovely, look at this. That looks like not factory. All right, cool. All right, well, we got this line junction, which I believe goes into the, yep, there it is. Goes into the switch. All right, cool. So I'm going to make a determination if I want to plug this off or if I can access that switch. So let's take a look. This line goes to the headlight override switch, which then goes into the headlight switch itself, which is then connected to the rest of the vacuum system, and that also controls the the wiper doors and all that stuff. So I really do want to eliminate all of that stuff. Having all this vacuum operating stuff in the car is really just not ideal. Vacuum leaks can create lean conditions, hurts the engine, etc., and it just makes things more complicated than it needs to be. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, I'm going to cut it, and then I'm going to plug it. And this way, I've got basically everything that I need to function. And then in a later series, I'm going to do the wiper door upgrade too, and then that's when we will remove basically everything else. So bear with me. I'm just going to trim this thing back and put a plug in it, and we'll be good to go. All right, so I trimmed that little guy back and put a plug in it, And also, I capped off our vacuum line that was going to the headlights. Cool, so I think we're good in terms of the vacuum stuff. Let's move on to the next step.
All right, so we're back underneath the car. This is the driver's side. And the next thing that Rich is calling out to do are these little support rods. So there's one here, there's one on the inside as well. And he's saying to basically use the bolts that are included to secure that down. We're going to do the inner ones a little bit later after the motor is installed. But first we're going to do this outside one.
All right, so that much is done. So looking on the back side, the driver's side, that is what that should look like. All right, let's move on to the next step. All right, so now we're getting to the point where we're going to put on the brackets for the motors. This is cool. They are directional, so you can see this one is D for the passenger side, and this one P for passenger. And so we just got to put this on the right side. I'll illustrate that in a second. They're directional because you can see there's a hole that mounts through here, so we're going to take care of that. And same thing, he's using washers, so we're going to get those. I'm putting washers on the screws. I'm also going to put washers on the opposite end for the nuts as well, and get these mounted up. Finger tight only, because we're also going to secure that inner support rod that we just saw once the motors are mounted. So stay tuned. All right, so you can see again coming in from the driver's side. Oop, where are you? Here we go. Here's the mounting bracket for the motor. Again, just finger tight for the time being. Come on, camera. There you go. Cool. So let's go and get those motors mounted up in there. All right, so we're going to start with the passenger side first, because that's what the instructions say to do. And essentially, it's going to look like this underneath the nose of the car. So the plug on this side is going to be facing down, and we got the pole piece jutting out to the left. Essentially, it goes in right through the hole on the bracket. So we have this pole going through here, and then we need to basically mount it in such that it comes up, and then we rotate it up like this. Now the problem with that is you have this support rod, and we were actually just dealing with these earlier with the actuators, but here it is. We're going to go and run up onto this support rod. All right, so we had one over here when we were doing the actuators, and then it actually runs all the way back. I don't know if I can get a good camera angle on this, but there's a bolt over here, and on the opposite side it needs to be the bolt that's on this side of the support rod needs to be loosened so we can move this around freely out of the way, bring the motor up, then bring these the support arm up. Let me go underneath the car and see if I can show that a little bit clearer. So essentially, here's that same support rod, and we want to loosen the bolt on this side and then remove this one so it will swing down essentially out of the way of the motor once we get it in, and then we're going to swing this back up and then tighten that bolt down. All right, so let's go ahead and do that, and I will show what it looks like. All right, so you can probably see what I did here. So by loosening the bolt over there on the outside of it, I can move this little support arm, and then the motor can be brought back up. So I'm going to now take this bolt, or this nut over here, put our support arm back onto it, and then our motor will be fully installed. So give me a sec, and you'll see what that looks like from the top. All right, so the passenger side motor is mounted. Very happy about that. Just tightened down the bolts from before, as well as the support rod that is now resting underneath the motor, which is cool. And then you have this nylock nut over here. If you just remove this little guy over here, I'm not going to do it right now, but just remove that little guy right there, you can get a deep well socket onto here. It's a 15/16 socket. You can also use, if you're tight for it, you can use a 24 mil socket. That'll work fine. And Richard says, like, you don't have to really torque this thing down to crazy tight. Just snug it up, and then you're good. There is no play on this at all, so I am happy. Cool. So passenger side's done. I'm going to go do the same thing on the driver's side. All right. So as I showed earlier, the passenger side is in. Got the driver's side in now, and a couple of just small important points. So Richard mentions in the instructions, this side's a little bit trickier because it's the same motor, it's just kind of flipped upside down. So it does get a little bit of tight, the support bar that goes underneath that I was showing before on this side. You do have to bend it just a little bit, but otherwise it's not too bad. He did mention that if you have, depending on your year, you might have to move your horn just a little bit, just kind of tilt it. This little mounting plate here, you might have to just tilt a little bit. But really what I want to talk about just very briefly is off camera, I actually had an issue. This large nut where it kind of threads onto the motor itself made a loud, banging noise while I was torquing it down. And the reason for that is because the actual threads on the motor itself broke off. I want to say about half or 3/4 of a centimeter of threads just broke off, which I was honestly kind of shocked about because I didn't really over torque it. I wasn't applying a lot of force because it even says in the instructions, don't over torque it. And this one went on just fine. So I sent him a picture and he was just like, you know what? It has happened like a couple of times in the past with people. It's not, I don't think it's a regular occurrence for him, but he did mention that, and he's like, just don't even worry about it. I'm going to send you a warranty motor right now. It's going to go out tomorrow. And in a couple of days, I got it. No questions asked. He didn't interrogate me. He didn't try blaming it on me. He just sent me a new motor, and it came super quick, which is just really good service. I'm very, very pleased with that. And you don't get that from big companies. So Richard, if you're watching this, I really appreciate you. Things happen, and you handled it beautifully. That's the kind of vendor that I want to do business with. So thank you very much. And for those who are watching or considering this, that's what you're getting along with all the Made in America components. You're getting good service from a small business. So that much is great. All right. So anyway, this is on. We got both motors mounted. Let's go on to the next step. All right, up next is the wiring harness. I am very excited about this. So I'm going to go just lie this in the car real quick, and then I'll show you how to plug it in. All right, so there's a plug side of the harness. We've got 2 plugs down here and 2 plugs up here. And on the back of them, you'll see that they are labeled with a D and a P. And so we're just going to connect these straight into the motor. I'll make a nice little clicky noise, and then we should be good to go. Come on, you. I'm trying to do this while looking at a camera as well, so bear with me. Does it go in like this? Yeah, it probably does. Probably does, smart guy. There we go. Oh, look at that. All right, so we're in. Cool. Let's do this guy down over here. All right. All right, cool, we're in. All right, so underneath the car, and bear with me, it's a little tight, but we're on the driver's side. Let me see if I can zoom out a little bit here. Okay, cool, so we're on the driver's side, and what we got to do is we actually got to disconnect the plug that goes into the low beam headlight. So I'm going to zoom in here. That's this guy. We're going to disconnect that because that's going to feed into the harness. We'll just route that other piece from the harness going in there. So bear with me. I'm just going to disconnect this real quick, and you'll see where I'm at. Okay, so we're in. Sorry, it's just a little difficult to get it on camera because it's such a tight space. But basically, you can kind of see how this works, right? So we have the old plug now that was in the back of the bulb. It's up here, and it's connecting down into the harness, which itself is now running into the bulb. All right, so it just kind of goes in between where those other things are at, and that's going to be our signal wire, which is great, and then it just passes down to the bulb itself. So all right, cool, on to the next step. All right, up next is the ground wire on the harness, which you'll see is this little guy right here, and you can see the relays down over there. So you gotta find a place to ground this thing, and so I think I'm going to go right over here. You can see that this is where this is a factory ground location, and you can see I'm actually running some aftermarket horns, and I'm using that as a ground. So I think I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put my ground over here, so I'll be right back. All right, so now we're going to connect the power source, but before we do that, there's a fuse in here, which we are going to remove as per Richard's instructions. So let's do that. All right, so this is carefully maneuvered off camera, and we'll take this little fuse out. Come on, you. All right, put that there for now. I'll put it in my pocket in just a sec, and let's close this guy up. Cool. And then we're gonna mount the power cable. So let's take care of that. Okay, so connecting the power is actually pretty simple. So we've got our fuse holder here, and then here's the line going in, and right over here on the driver's side wheel well kind of area is the horn relay. And so this basically just goes onto the right post. There's just a little flathead screw that we take there. So that's on, as you can see, and I think we're just about ready to test. Stay tuned. All right, so we are going to test. So first thing we're going to do, it's getting a little dark out here, bear with me. We're going to pull on the headlights. Okay, cool. Let's make sure that our low beam turns on. Yes, it does. Great. So that little connection worked. Excellent. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to set up the camera. We're going to put in the fuse, and we're going to check to hear if the motors turn. And we're definitely going to hear the relays click, or at least I hope we do. And then we're going to turn the headlights off and do the same thing. Hopefully the motors turn, and we hear the relays click again. If we're good, then we can proceed to the next step. Otherwise, if not, we got to check our connections. The moment of truth. Okay, here we go. Yep, I heard them. Okay, let's turn the lights off. Let's see if I hear it again. Excellent. I don't know if you folks can hear that. Lights on. Excellent. All right, so I think we are good to go. The next step that we're going to do is clean up the wiring a little bit. I'm going to zip tie some of this stuff, mount this little fuse holder, mount the relays, all that good stuff. So stay tuned. All right, so I did a little bit of zip tying just to give you an idea of something that you can do. And I'll be honest with you, if I'm being honest with myself, this could be a little bit cleaner, but just to give you an idea. So I zip tied the relays down here on this bar, tied some of the wires back, and then you can see I have it zip tied along here close to the factory wiring, and then kind of going out, and then just running along the side there. This to me, like, this could all be done better. What I want to do actually is I want to take this wrapping off and want to inspect all the good wiring that's in there, see if there's any bad wiring that needs to be replaced, and then I'm going to actually take these wires and wrap them in with the rest of it, so it'll just look like one nice continuous stream rather than seeing all this like zip tie stuff. But right now I just want to get this stuff working, and then we'll clean it up. Okay, so the big thing though that I want to talk about is making sure that the hood closes, because you want to make sure that everything passes these gaps nice and easily. There's nothing that the hood can get hung up on when closing it. So let's bring this down, take a quick look, bear with me. All right, and beautiful. All right, so nothing in there, we like it. Okay, cool. On to the next step. All right, so the next thing we got to do is put the motors into the up position. So I'm going to turn on the headlights. Okay, and now I'm going to remove the fuse. Cool. And turn the headlights back off. Great. Now to that, what we're going to do is we're going to connect we're going to disconnect the clevis and heim joint here. So I'm just going to push this guy out. Okay. And put this aside for the time being. And then this is the next piece here. So this coarse threaded end over here, that's what's going to go back into the clevis that was supporting the headlight mechanism earlier. This is basically what replaces the threaded rod that was on the headlight actuators that we removed earlier. So I'm going to go connect that and you'll see what I mean in just a sec. Okay, so you can see here, I'm going to zoom in. That's the threaded rod, and we put it into the clevis pin here in the center. All right, and then coming out the back is the little heim joint. All right, so this is where we're going to adjust this linkage to be able to mate up with the motor in just a second. So let me get up and show you the opposite side. All right, so now from the front of the car, you can see the heim joint sticking out. And here's the motor, and then here, this little billet arm is going to connect. Let's see if I can do this with one hand. Ooh, it'll be a little tricky. Ah, there we go. All right, and then basically we're going to get this, we're going to make adjustments to this heim joint, turning it in or out to mate up with the splined end of this motor. So I'm going to remove the little nut, and we'll adjust this to where we want it to be, and then tighten it down. So give me just one moment, and we'll take care of that. All right, cool. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to get these outer springs off. I'm going to zoom in on one of them over here. All right, we're going to get that guy out and just leave the two inner ones, because those are the only ones that's needed. So give me 1 second, I'll get these out and show you where I'm at. All right, so this is the passenger side. I've got the outer springs removed. We just have the inner ones left. Come on, camera, focus. There we go. Just got the inner ones left in it. So I have this replicated on both sides. Everything is hooked up. You can see the linkage right over there. And let's try this out, see how we did. Alright, I'm thrilled with how these turned out. They work awesome, and eliminating half the vacuum junk that's in this car is just a great thing. Vacuum leaks cause all sorts of problems, so I'm really happy. I think they look really great. Overall, I would review this as a very good product. It's a little bit on the pricier side, but Richard is a pretty good guy to work with, and it's a high quality unit. I'm really happy with the performance of it. So if you're considering it and you got a little extra money to spend it. It's worth it. I like it. I think you will too. Coming up next, let's see. There are a few things that I want to do. There's a couple of small repairs actually I need to do. The headlight warning switches, when the headlights are engaged, are broken on both sides, so I got to put those in. And then I think actually one of my pigtails on the headlights is going out. It's a little finicky. You touch it and then the light turns on. Sometimes it doesn't. So I think I'm probably going to take care of that. So small fixes, stay tuned for that. And then the next bit is going to be LED lighting. I want to do LED headlights. I want to do LED side markers and tail lights and all that stuff. Just brighter lights overall, always a good thing to have on a car. People can see you, you can see them. I think it's a nice, tasteful upgrade. So stay tuned, and when that's up, I will put it up right over here. Thanks so much, folks.